Here's a piece of advice that sounded strange to me at first, but actually is pretty smart. Design your conference booth to feel like a coffee shop, not a trade show. So basically, you want soft lighting, a rug, a space where people actually want to sit down in. And it kind of makes sense once you hear where my guest for today, Rachel Verrill, came from. She is currently the field marketing manager at Tactile, and before she was in Fintech, she spent years at Starbucks, working up from barista to running a reserve bar, and then moved on to sales as a PDR at Unit. And you can see kind of where that hospitality background shows, and it's very much a part of how she designs booths. So specifically, she says she wants people to sit and stay for an hour instead of 90 seconds and run events like a host, inviting you into her home. Tactile is a risk decisioning platform for fintech companies, helping risk teams build automated decision flows for things like onboarding, credit, fraud, all of that. And they raised a $54 million Series B last year and work with companies like Mercury and Zilch. In this episode, we get into why she designs booths to be genuinely comfortable and why she actually doesn't care that much about foot traffic and badge scans, why your BDRs are the most underrated people you can bring to an event, how she ties every event decision back to pipeline, her side event playbook, like, for example, why she never puts a panel at a happy hour. This was a super in-depth and helpful and insightful episode, so I'm really excited to get into it. You're listening to the Fintech Marketing Lab podcast. I'm Araminta from Mint Studios, a content marketing agency specialized in the fintech space. And this podcast is where we experiment, explore, and break down how fintech marketing actually works in practice. Each episode, I talk with top fintech marketers about what they're testing, what they're learning, and how they're pushing the boundaries of brand, strategy, and team building. With that, let's get into today's episode. So I know you have a lot of experience, Rachel, doing booths, events. So I'm really excited to get into the specifics in this episode of how to do this properly, because I think often it can be a little bit vague, the advice, because often events seems to be just one part of a whole marketing kind of program. So I want to start off with what are maybe the most common mistakes that you see companies make when it comes to designing booths and events. But maybe let's start with booths, because I know those are two quite different things.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've seen that works for us that I see time and time again, and some of this is space conscious for sure, like how big is the space of the booth, but making your space comfortable to stay in. Like and it goes beyond like, do you have the right furniture? I don't want to sit on like a tall plastic bar stool. Maybe that's one aspect of it, but you're also thinking about sound barriers. You're thinking about, how do I bring people from these like 15-minute little meetings that happen in maybe a center area of the conference floor and bring them to our booth and have them stay there for like 30 minutes to an hour and like dive deep into the product there at the booth. And not considering that in your booth design is, to me, I think the number one miss that I see with booths. The other thing is not considering the floor plan. And this kind of adds to the sound barrier and making this comfortable space. Like, yeah, you can pick the right space that you have a 10 by 20 area and you just pick one. But where is it? Is it next to the food court where everyone's having super loud, non-relevant, they're not interested in hearing any sort of branding conversations? Or are you putting it next to the stage? And maybe there's an aspect to this. If you have the stage, like, who are the speakers of the stage up there? These are the big heavy hitters that the conference sees as like the top folks. Is there any branding opportunity and make a big, bold, put your logo that faces right on the stage, and maybe the speakers who are up there and staring at it for 30 minutes at a time might think like, well, who are they? I'm looking at them and it's super bright. Maybe I'll take a spot. It's all these little things that you have to consider for the entire like expo hall that all comes down to the same aspect. It needs to be comfortable to stay in, not only for your guests, but also your team.
Mm-hmm. No, I really like that. So could you share maybe some examples? You don't have to share the names of companies that haven't done this very well, or you went into their booth area and you were like, this is not comfortable. Like, what are some examples of it not being comfortable?
I mean, you have like your basic like 8x8 booth spaces where you have maybe 2 chairs and like a folded table, maybe. And a lot of this is not, I get it. Like, I understand, like, you're limited to your resources and your space. So there's 1,000 companies that do it this way. But what's different is even if you have these little 8x8s, right? Like a plant can go a long way. Like the color scheme. I think one of the things that drives me nuts whenever I walk up to this is they have one back wall where they have this opportunity to talk about what they do, showcase their brand, and it's like there's like a novel written on there. And it's like, who's sitting and reading this novel that you've printed on the back? Like, visually comfortable too. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, I have a private room with a door and here's our coffee station and here's all this. Like, visually comfortable, it makes sense and it feels approachable. And I think the other thing too that you can control, no matter what size booth you have or how complex or not complex you decide, is the number of people that you have in your booth as well. Like, you have a crowded area, no one's going to want to come up to you. I know it sounds a little counterintuitive because you want your booth to be the one that's like lively and excited. You could have that aspect, but if you only have room for 4 people and you got 4 staff members and taking up all the room, people are coming by, maybe glancing and not stopping in. But this is all
well, it's intimidating, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, a little intimidating, or it's like, oh, they're too busy, like no one's available to talk to me, or maybe I'll come back later when there's like one guy there. People are shy. But
totally, yeah.
I think it's not specific people that I've seen. It's just you see it over and over again where they have the default furniture and just like one backdrop behind them that just maybe offers a little too much information that no one's going to read. A bit of a miss.
Yeah. I think what makes me sad when I see that is like the missed opportunity, because you already spent so much money on a booth, and I think a lot of people know now that's not enough. Like, you can't just spend that money and expect sales. Like, you really have to be smart about it and do something different and all these things. And so it pains me because I'm like, oh man, they spent so much money and maybe they're not using it as much as they could. And that's, as a marketer, I'm like, oh God, the ROI. Painful. So when you say sound barrier, so I think that's quite interesting. Do you mean like when they go into the area, I guess you need a bit of a bigger booth, like somewhere that's a bit quieter? Like, what do you mean exactly by sound barrier?
Yeah, if your booth allows for the space to have like a quieter area, but there's ways to do this where even is like a psychological, like, oh, it feels like we're in a quieter area. Like, it's one thing to have like a table and 4 chairs and a screen, but if you can build that table and 4 chairs and just scoot it a little bit into like between 2 walls, and maybe just the first 2 chairs are in there and the other 2 are sticking out, but it feels like a room. Like, it feels like you've just entered a new space. Walls, fake walls, half walls go a long way for a booth. And these things, like, it makes people feel comfortable. It makes them feel a bit away from like the chaos of the expo floor. And a lot of times they do provide some sort of like block from the basic, like what's happening on the other booth right next door. And that's fake walls, and little walls can go a long way to help with sound barriers. And then, yeah, it's the piece that I said, like, okay, if you're next to the loudest stage on that's like constantly running panels with a very loud microphone, it's like, it could be distracting for the guests that you have at the booth. So picking an ideal space on the floor where it's not going to be too noisy around you, I think that's super important.
And are there other ways to make it cozy? Like, this is just me thinking out loud, but maybe you could add like some decoration that's like relaxing, or I don't know, a pot of tea, I don't know, stuff like that. Like, where I sit down and have a tea or something like that.
Yeah, offering like a little cup of coffee if you can, even just a Keurig machine or a little espresso machine that you can have, offering that up to your coffee. I would say rugs. Use rugs. I don't see people use rugs. Like, you'll see rugs in recording studios because they do exactly what they're supposed to do. They muffle the sound just enough where it's comfortable to the ears. There's not a lot of echo. It's an easy thing to purchase and roll out, and it kind of gives a cozy home vibe as well. Footprint, like if someone's wearing high heels, all of a sudden you're not hearing clicking as people pace around the booth, like little things like that. Use rugs, use soft lighting. If you can control the lighting in your booth, I think that's huge. Don't have fluorescence. Don't make it look like a doctor's office. Make it look like a coffee shop if you can. That would be great.
Yeah, no, this is great. I think I like the rug idea. I'm gonna I'm going to take that. So we're going to talk about side events in a second, but maybe we could dive a bit deeper into booths. So yeah, I'd love to hear your process for designing a booth. I mean, we already talked a bit about some tips there, but like from start to finish, imagine we've got someone listening who their job is now, okay, Money 2020, we have a booth, me and my team, we need to put this together and obviously get the best out of it. Start with kind of the vendor selection and then maybe design, and then we can talk about people and all that and strategy. But yeah, how would you kickstart that process?
Yeah. If you're an event marketer who has gone to all these events before, take a chunk of your time when you're at a conference to walk the entire floor and see what booths you like and write down what's good and go introduce yourself to their marketers. I almost guarantee you whoever is in contact with their vendor is there at the conference. Talk to them, ask the marketers, hey, who'd you use? I love it. Like, give me the details. Do your own form of networking to find the right vendors. If you haven't gone before, vet the websites that you can for booth vendors. But I would say always work with like a booth design agency, especially for these large conferences. If you have like a larger space and you want to run a more unique concept, work with a booth design agency and come with a broad concept and don't be afraid to think outside of the box. I've seen it all with booths. Like, people are like, I want my booth to be a t-shirt print shop. I want my booth to be a little casino. I want my booth to be a food truck. I want my booth to look like an Abercrombie and Fitch. All of this is possible. And the things that they come back, like, you can tweak. And I've always had really positive experiences working with these booth design agencies, and I'll do it. I'll just continue doing it. You own the creative, but they're the execution layer that you absolutely need, especially if you're in a team like me, where I'm alone in my role. I'm the only field marketer at Tactile right now, and I could use the extra hands. And I imagine for a lot of startups, that is going to be the case. You're not always going to have this huge team of like 10 event or field marketers on every conference.
One quick question there, actually. Do you think it's worth still hiring an agency if it's a small, like 8x8, as you said? Or is there any size where it makes sense, or one where it's like too small?
I think for your 8x8s and your small ones, you might want to work with a design contractor for the back. If you're not someone who has like a good eye for design or anything, I think that's fine. I wouldn't work with a booth contracting team for like an 8x8 because, yeah, unless you're doing like a full build from the ground up, I would say like not like a 10x20 or anything bigger, 20x20 of one of the large spaces on the floor. Work with like a full booth design agency. If not, work with a design agency because they can help you with that backsplash, which is going to be like almost your only chance to have some sort of like creative control over what you do. Find a good contractor and work with them. I think for your 8x8s and everything, that would be what I recommend.
Sense.
Another piece that I would say in my process is after you work with the broad design and you sort of own this, you have to think about the whole team that you're sending. For us personally, for events like Money 2020, where we have these demo stations built into our booths, it's very important that we're sending our solutions engineers, which you don't see a lot at conferences. You don't see these like technical roles like going, but these are our anchor people at the booth. And I need to make sure that I have a space that makes sense for them. So getting their feedback ahead of time, like, hey, you're going to be running demos from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the floor. What is important to you before I design this booth? Like, get it straight from the source, but also allow your AEs and your BDRs and even your executive team or sales leadership to give some feedback. I would say don't limit it. You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, but think about your most important. Who are your anchor people at the booth? Get their thoughts and feedback for sure. And then trickle down to like, okay, maybe my BDRs are going to be running around. I don't need to take all their feedback on the booth design.
What kind of feedback do you think they would give you? Like, what are they going to say? Are they going to say, I need a comfy chair? Is that the kind of stuff? Or is it more like, I need this space so I can show this part of the product, something like that?
I think comfortable seating and a comfortable space is always the first thing. They're like, well, fast Wi-Fi. Most of these booths, especially for the bigger ones, you're having to pay for your own Wi-Fi. And they're like, I don't want any glitches or anything like that. Like, let's ensure that the Wi-Fi is top notch at the booth. 100%. We'll get that for you. The other piece is like, it's all in the little details. Like if they're sitting there all day and I'm handing them snacks to fuel them, or like, hey, I got you a plate of lunch or whatever, have a little trash can underneath the table that they can like access quickly and keep the station clean and everything there. Make sure you have charging ports so their laptops can stay charged. It's just about the experience and making them as comfortable as possible.
Yes. No, that's really great. And so interesting what you were saying about who's joining at your booth. We've had Kate from Middesk on as well on this podcast, and she also shared that what you were saying, like important to have experts as well, not just salespeople, because if not, it can be intimidating as well. And also, especially if I don't know, say a CEO comes along, like being able to speak to the experts or the people who really know their stuff can really show that you're legit and credibility and all that. So how do you pick who's coming and how do you like to set it up yourself?
Yeah, I think we have such a wide range of people who go, but I think you have to think at the top of the food chain and the bottom of the food chain. But I'm going to put big old quotes here because my secret weapon for conferences and side events are my BDRs and my SDRs. I think it's a big miss when event marketers or even sales teams don't want to use their BDRs at events. I have never seen a hungrier, go get them. They will prep the heck out of these events for your senior executive leadership that is there, but incredibly busy. And you do a buddy system. Like you have your AEs, your sales leadership, your CEO, and your solutions engineers. And each BDR that you send is paired with this team as they're managing the schedules and the meetings and the prep for their entire, let's say, week at this conference. And having them there to sort of do these intros, book as many meetings as they can ahead of time. And on the floor, they're meeting every day before the conference with our CEO. And they're like, hello, Mike, these are the people you're meeting today. This is everything you need to know. Having that in person goes so far. So you have your BDRs, you have AEs. BDRs are there for booking meetings, scheduling everything, generating new leads and new pipeline. AEs are there for accelerating their open deals, meeting with people that they've met with before. They can run demos as well. If there's a station open and a solution engineer is not available, an AE can run a demo as much as they can. We have our sales leadership for follow-up meetings. Let's say day one, we have a 15-minute meeting and they're super interested to be like, hey, our CEO's here. He's available at 2 p.m. Why don't you come by the booth? We'll sit with him and you can ask him everything he knows. So it goes all the way up and it's good to have a wide range. And then you have your marketers. I think if you have a big booth concept in a side event happening at a conference, you should be in attendance. You don't always have to be in the booth at all times. You should be there to make sure everything's looking spotless and it's running smoothly and everyone has what they need. But I think it's important to have a little bit of marketing presence as well.
Yeah, nice. And actually, just to go back quickly to design, we didn't really talk about strategy, I guess, because you mentioned leadership and you also mentioned that you could have a food truck theme, a t-shirt theme. How do you decide on the theme of the booth and kind of what's the strategy there behind that?
I would say the biggest thing is don't overcomplicate it for your entire year. If you pick a design for your first big conference of the year and it works, your second biggest conference of the year, do it again. We kind of have our booth designs in year series. So for 2025, we ran the same design where we had 2 demo stations. We had our logo being the structure of the booth and a side closet and everything that you need. And we did that at the 3 biggest conferences of the year and it worked. And then we decided, well, that was great. Let's have a bigger space. And so for 2026, all those big conferences where we have these big booths, we upgraded our spaces for all of them. And we were like, well, we have to think of a new design. And so we came up with one good thing that we want to run. And for us, we're kind of going with this coffee shop meets IKEA showroom, cozy, this comfortable vibe. We will run this same concept for all of that. I think the big mistake to try and okay, for the March event, we're going to do a food truck concept. And then in June, we have to do the storefront concept. It's just way too much work and it's really unnecessary. So I would say that's the biggest piece. As far as the specific design, it depends. If you're doing if you want to run yours like a t-shirt print shop, you better have good swag. I think that's the biggest. If swag is important to you at a conference, make it make sense to the concept of your booth. If you're doing a food truck, hand out coffee and that will be your activation. Maybe you don't need a t-shirt on the side of that. If it's all about branding and thought leadership for you guys or seeing technical or whatever, make sure you have big screens, make sure you have big words and you use your ceiling space as much as possible. Hang something down from the ceiling so someone way across the expo hall can see the word of your company from far away. Deciding what's important to your team and then the theme will come naturally, but stick to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you said before we started recording, like, do this in the quieter months, maybe. I imagine that's what you're doing in December, like do your planning and all that in December. Maybe don't do it like 2 weeks before the event. I mean, I don't think many people do that, but.
Oh, impossible. 2 weeks before the event. But yeah, take advantage of your slow seasons. I know it's tempting to like lean back and be like, oh, I can take a break and everything. But you should be planning for the next year. Like December is always slow for events and conferences. People are winding down, going back to their hometowns, what have you. That should be your time where you should be planning for the entire next year.
Yeah. Nice. So if we go back to booths then, how do you like to measure kind of success? How do you try and make sure that you get the most out of it? I imagine it depends a little bit, obviously, and it'll connect to your wider marketing strategy. But maybe you can use an example of maybe the strategy was, I don't know, X, bringing more leads or whatever it was. And then how did the booth connect to that? Like, how do you, make sure you make the most of that?
I'll say two things. That's maybe a slightly controversial take for many marketers here. And one that I think is the number one driver of our event marketing strategy, which is if you aren't a pipeline-focused marketer, you're missing a huge KPI. There is not a team that I work with more closely than the BDRs. For any event, it could be these big conferences, or it can be a 15-person dinner, or it can be like a 100-person happy hour, whatever it is. I work so closely with the BDRs and we share the same goal. I think it's actually important to note that before I was in event marketing, I was a BDR. And I did that for many years. And that actually inspired my growth into this new role, because I was the person who was being sent to these events. And I thought, well, what do I need out of these as a BD or like a sales-focused person? How can I then turn into the person that's curating these events with that mindset? And so for everything we do, every decision I make as an event marketer is for pipeline and generating pipeline, driving pipeline that's already existing and leading towards ultimately closing deals. Of course, and then there is the added things. There's brand opportunities, there's thought leadership that I have to think about. How do I frame tactile in a way that brand is everything that people say about you when you're not around because you've inspired them to think this way? I have to think about those as well. So it's BD and sales goals and some, but pipeline should be the number one. So when we think about booth design, I'm thinking about what structure can we set that will actually start a deal from start to finish. That's the ideal scenario. You come to a conference and you meet someone for 15 minutes and then they come to the booth, they have a demo, and then you invite them to the evening event and they have a great time that they want to see you the next day. And then maybe they're meeting with the CEO and they bring their CEO. And then the last day of the conference, they're signing the paper. We've actually had this happen.
Wow, that's great. That's amazing. And it's probably faster because I imagine your sales cycles are long, like most B2B enterprise, but because it's in person, everyone's there, you can speed it up.
Accelerates it.
That's great.
Not only in person matters, but also the right people. Like you can start the whole journey. You can have your BDR intro meeting, your AE deep dive, your solutions demo, and your executive decision, all in the same area if you staff correctly. But it's all focused on the same goal, which is, generating pipeline. My controversial take is like most marketers are standing there with badge scanners and scanning every single person that walks up in the booth. No, if you're scanning the badge of someone who's just walking up and grabbing a t-shirt from your swag thing and walking away, you're missing the point. Like those names don't matter. You have to track the names where the quality meetings are actually happening. What are the BDRs actually booking? Who are the people sitting down and chatting with your team in a real way? These are the names that you need to track as a marketer. I don't care about how many footsteps were in my booth.
It's like the physical representation of like a report download versus a book a demo. Like same as a marketer, I honestly, that's why I don't believe in gating. So I'm like, I don't care. If you downloaded a report, you wanted to download a report, to read a report. It doesn't necessarily mean you were looking for a payment solution, right? Or whatever it is. I mean, we track them because they're interesting if they're gated and but usually we leave them ungated. What we really care about is the book of demos because that's really the quality, as you say. So it's like the physical representation. Yeah, totally. I agree. Really interesting what you're saying about, I love how you used to be a BDR and now you can really, you know exactly what they need. So What is it that you have found they really need from their marketing field marketer? What is it that really helps them get the job done?
Yeah, I think there's a one point about the comfortable spaces, for sure. I mean, you don't want to throw your teams into chaotic spaces that aren't efficient. And then there's the little details that they don't even know that they want, right? And I'm going to talk about name tags here for a second. When I attend an event and I don't get a name tag, I'm like, what are we doing? And I'll further it. If I do get a name tag and all it says is Rachel Verrill and zero information, I'm also like, what are we doing? It's important for your team and it's your job to make sure that they're set up for success. So our name tags are readable and they offer all the information that you need. Name, title, company for every guest. And if they don't have one, you're right. You find someone with good handwriting at check-in and you're writing it for them. And then we've even gone further with name tags. And these are the little details that I think okay, thinking as a BDR or salesperson and now transitioning into a marketer, these are the things I didn't even realize I needed. Let's say you're hosting an event and you have your CEO going, your head of sales going, and your head of partnerships going. And these are the three top names, but they all have different goals and they all want to talk to different tier 1 prospects that are in the room. You have your name tags and you have a colored bar right above on the top. Color code them. Hey, everyone with a green name tag, that's your guy. Find the green name tags. Only focus on them. Head of partnerships, you're on blue. Head of sales, you're on orange. And the guests have no idea. They don't know what this means. They got an orange one, they got a green one. But your team does, and that's what's important. And it's the little details where it's hey, we only have 2 hours for this happy hour. Let's make the most of it. I want to make sure that if I'm using my CEO and my top leadership at this event, how do I make the best of their time? These little details go a long way where your sales team's set up, but now as a marketer, you have the tools to execute on this. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed since my transition over. What were the little things I didn't even realize?
I love that tip because I was going to say, obviously at an expo, you can't really ask people to have their name tags and stuff, but really smart if you're doing your own event to have it color coded. I can already imagine the guests being like, so what do the colors mean? And you're just like, oh, don't worry.
We're company colors. We're blue and this lime green, or purple and lime green. All right, well, purple ones and lime green ones.
Yes.
We'll sign them that way. It's
no, that's cool. That's really smart. I love that. So we were going to talk about side events. We've just talked a lot about booths, but I have one last question about booths, which is, what have you found makes someone stop at a booth? They're walking through the expo. Maybe they're your prospect, like an ideal ICP. What do you find works? And anything that you can share that you've tried at Tactile that has worked there?
I say unfortunately, because I think this is probably the hardest part of the job when it comes to designing booths, but the uniquer, the better. I mean, you definitely want to stand out in that aspect. If you can have some sort of interactive activation that makes sense, yes, you can have a claw machine and maybe that's interesting and it keeps people there, or you can do the Lego set things. I've seen people do that, but make sure to make it make sense and tie it to the brand and also have someone available to talk. If you're going to have a claw machine, someone's going to be on the claw machine. But yeah, the uniquer the concept, the better. That definitely makes people stop and remember. I mean, you talk about Kate Young at Middesk. I mean, I will never forget the Middesk booth at Money 2020 this year. It was incredible. They decided to do a lifestyle brand and they made their booth a storefront and it was 4 sides square and it was gorgeous. They had sofas and dark green and browns and copper golds, and they had their greeting desk on the inside was a register, where you could check out your items, and they had all this custom swag that was made exactly for this lifestyle brand that they built. I mean, look at me. I don't work with Middesk, but it was incredible. And I will never forget it. Oh, they're so good. And I remember going up to Kate and I was like, who did this? I need to know who you worked with on this. And not only for this, who's your swag? Who made your t-shirts? Who made this incredible duffel bag? And they also made all their swag VIP only, and you can only get it if you book a meeting, which was much to the chagrin of me, because I was I want everything. So if you can afford it and you have the space for it, go bold with your concept. The other aspects, I think using screens, I think really helps. If you can afford like an LED screen back wall or like something on the side, I think that those really stand out. I've seen like neon lights are kind of big, like outlining your booth and making your big logo shine backlit with neon, like just pops, like big pops. And then of course what you say, actually, I'm going to wind this back because the other thing that I think really helps is people underestimate team t-shirts at these conferences. When I tell my team like, hey, we're going to have a team t-shirt, they're like, oh, but like we dress so well. Like I want to wear my own clothes. They're like, I know, I get it. But it's like, you could be away from the booth. And if you have a team t-shirt that's interesting enough, or maybe it ties to it and bold enough, it's like you're floating booths. Like how can we spread this branding as far and wide as we can that's like allowed with the conference? And team t-shirts is a perfect way to do that. It's also just easier. Not everyone loves it, but I think it's an underestimated aspect of booth design.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also like they stand out so much more. Like, I don't know, green or blue or whatever with the same color. When you see them walking about, you're like, oh yeah, I know that. And it's also every time you see them, even though you're far away from the booth, you're getting repeated messages. Like, you know what they say, it was 7 times you have to see a brand before. I can't remember if it was 7. But, you know, you're seeing it every single time more and more. So that's a huge one.
We sent 19 people to Money 2020, which I think it was a lot of people, but that's 19 people with these t-shirts that say decisions matter, repeated all on the back of the t-shirt. And I can't even tell you how many people went up and they're like, what are these shirts that I'm seeing? And it's only for the team. You can make some that you can give away, but only for the team. And it's like, oh, it's tactile. Let's chat. And this was happening inside the expo hall and outside the expo hall. And I think it's really important.
Wow, that's really great. Okay, we need to talk about side events because you've shared so many great tips for booths, but side events also are super important. So you've got the side events that obviously are happening during the conference, right? And you've already mentioned that this is also a really good way to activate and an important touch point. So maybe we can talk about those first, and then we can talk about side events in general, the types that you do, happy hours, dinners, all these kind of things. But yeah, let's start with the side events during conferences, all that kind of thing. What have you found works quite well there? And what is your kind of objective with those?
Yeah, I think venue selection, like anything, is very, very important. Like where you decided your side event should be convenient to the location of the expo hall. I think that's like, do your best to scout out the area if you can. If it's like, if you're hosting a side event or the conference is in your city, go in person and see it. I would say always go in person if you can. If not, maybe get on a call with someone, an event organizer or the event staff at the restaurant or the bar that you'll do it. Have a unique concept. I don't think you need to over-theme these. I think that's really important when it comes to side events. And one thing that always sounds like a good idea, and I get it why people do this and event organizers do this, but if you're doing a side event that's happening after like a 9-to-5 expo hall experience for all your guests, don't have a panel at your happy hour. Controversial take, but people are exhausted, sat in panels all day in the central hall. What they want to go enjoy themselves. They want to connect with people, and you can do that. You can have more natural networking, offer them like a great open bar and then a nice comfortable space in a private setting, like good food, private room, everything there. Don't make them sit and listen to something for another 30 minutes. Because what I'll tell you, no one, like, people will talk over you. No shame. And then it just really looks like a disaster. Unless you really have the space to accommodate it. I would say you can do a panel at your happy hour if you have like a stage and some lighting and proper AV. But if you just set up some chairs in the corner and you're having people sit and hopefully listen, I would advise against it. The other thing is branding. I said don't over-theme these, and I think that's true. However, if you're doing it especially connected to a conference, try and tie it in to the theme of the conference. For example, we did an event, Fintech NerdCon, last year in Miami, which was in November. Fintech NerdCon as a first-year conference had a very, very strong brand, which I really enjoyed. If anyone saw it, it's very 8-bit video game kind of looking and feel, and they kind of leaned into this like nerd concept. we decided to do a happy hour as a part of our strategy at Fintech NerdCon. And first of all, I use the word NerdCon. We called our event NerdCon Night Shift. We opted for the late night event, which was started at 8 p.m., which, FYI, don't be afraid to be the late night event. NerdCon Night Shift. And the design for it was 8-bit palm trees with a night sky and what are those little coins that you see on like Mario games or whatever at the bottom. And the text is 8-bit, and people immediately know that this is for guests of Fintech NerdCon. Of course, you can still craft your ICP. You can make a curated list of invitees. But I think where we were successful is like the association between the two was so strong without it being like, I didn't have to work with like event organizers at Fintech NerdCon to make that happen. And there's opportunities to do that everywhere. Like if you're even putting a skyline, like if you're doing an event in New York City, put the skyline somewhere in your branding, or Vegas, put the Vegas Strip somewhere, or like put some dice or like the cool number 7. Like add something that's related to either the area or the conference theme that you're already working off of.
So many great tips. Okay, so how about side events in general, or I should call them side events, just like general events? What are your favorites? We've got happy hours, we've got dinners. What are your favorite ones to do for specific, I don't know, goals? And how do you make them like memorable or really, really work well for the company?
There's a few things. I hold a strong opinion that all companies, especially startups who are really trying to build their identity and build their brand, should have at least one form of like repeated event. It could be a global dinner series where you have it's the same naming structure and you do these dinners in all cities that you service or everywhere that you have a home base. Like for us, for example, we have offices in Berlin, London, and New York. So we'll always try to do a dinner in New York, London, and Berlin. And then
you manage all of them?
I am managing all of them. It's a lot of work, but it's great because when you templatize it, right? Like when you call it the same thing and you have the same sort of graphic that you're working on for the event and everything, it's easy to make this repeatable, but you just are serving like a local audience. So I think everyone should focus on having at least one sort of repeated series event. And then everything else, you have your like one-offs, like, okay, maybe you're hosting like a VIP suite at a sporting event, which I think are great events. Those are the easiest ones to fill, FYI. People are excited. They'll go on a weekend. Like people love those kinds of events. My other favorite ones, and this is a bit of I'm not sure how many other event marketers have built events from the ground up like this, but I will work with my AEs and be like, who are your champion people in late stage deals? They'll tell me, and they'll say, this one guy, I really want to elevate him as a thought leader in this space. I think he's great. He's our champion. Let's make a panel. Let's make an event specifically around him as a centerfold of this panel, and we can add a moderator and everything else, and let's invite people to it. And I want our champion to be a thought leader. And it's less about us. It's not like I'm putting our CEO on the panel every single time. It's like, hey, your chief risk officer at this company is a genius and is super excited about what's happening with AI and risk. I want him on stage and we can have tactile moderating the discussion, sure.
So just to clarify, you're getting your prospects champion, not tactile champion. Like, as
right.
In, I see, like a prospect. Okay. Smart. Yeah,
like
what you mean.
Our prospects who maybe they're not our customers yet, but they're absolute rock stars. And they're like our main point of contact that the AE is like really connected to, like as the deal goes along. Yeah, finding opportunities to elevate them and making them sort of the star of the show. And we've done these like panel events. And then what's great is like, okay, great. Where do they live? They live in San Francisco. Let's do this in San Francisco. We'll make it as easy as possible for them. We'll find a place with a nice stage and AV and a great staff. And we'll do a panel and happy hour to follow. Those events, I mean, it helps so much with deal acceleration. It helps so much with relationship building. And it also helps so much when you're interested in like, hey, when you're a software where you're helping experts in a space, it doubles down on that sentiment. Like, hey, you guys are the experts. We're just helping you with like what our product, but we want to continue to treat you guys as you should as the experts of the space. So we're giving you these opportunities. I think events like those are really interesting, fun. They're fun to organize and you have pretty much free game on what you want to talk about and how you want to design it. But the most important thing is like you're connecting and elevating your community, which is great.
Yeah, this is so good. And the sporting event, so just so I understand, could you explain that a little bit more? Like, how does that work? Do you pick an event and then hire a room and you just invite prospects? Like, how would you set that up?
Yeah, so typically I would recommend, like, if you're going to do a sporting event, yes, you can pick any old baseball game or anything, but maybe make it a bit more like a championship game that's happening, right? Like, for example, we're actually doing a co-hosted event with one of our partners in Chicago, and the Big Ten college basketball tournament's happening. And for the championship game, we booked the like VIP FanDuel suite. It fits like up to 40 people. And you have a great view of the court, but you also have like open bar and like screens and tables where people can like mingle and network and feel like it feels like a VIP experience. Like they have a separate entrance. There's parking passes available for them. It's all these things where, hey, have a good time on us. And I think people underestimate, like, sometimes it's all it takes. Like,
I know, we're so human, right?
We're so human.
It sounds amazing, to be honest. I would love to go to
one. And I'm telling you, this event is happening on a Sunday and people are like excited to be there.
That's cool.
So yeah, I think those events are fun. I think make them interesting, like sporting events if you can. Maybe it's some of the bigger games. If you have to spend a little bit more to make that happen, co-host the event to help with the costs there. But yeah, those are always easy to fill.
This is so cool. Well, amazing. Thanks so much, Rachel. There's so many more questions I have, but I also want to be conscious of time. But this has been so helpful, so in-depth, so like specific. It's really refreshing to have such specificity. So really, thank you so much. My last question, a little fun one. You have mentioned a pet peeve already, but maybe we can broaden to events and not just booths. Biggest event pet peeve. What is one you have?
Yeah, I truly think my number one answer is the name tags. No name tags is my number one pet peeve, but I know I mentioned that. I would say, like, keep your space clean. Whether it's a booth, whether it's a side event, I hold the mentality where it's like, when I'm hosting an event, I'm truly that. I am on host mode and I'm in charge. Like, what do they say? Like wealth whispers or something? Like, it's all these little things that, like, when you're in your home and you're hosting a dinner party, light a candle in the bathroom and make it smell good. Whatever, no one's thinking about it, but make it nice for everybody. It's on me and my team, and I always emphasize this. I'm like, guys, if you see an empty cup, I don't care who you are, pick it up and throw it away. And I know there's wait staff. I know that, but we're also paying to be here. So let's all pitch in and make sure our space is clean and comfortable. And yeah, I would say if you're not conscious about the cleanliness and of your event or your booth, you make the big difference.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I like what you're saying. Imagine it's your own home. Imagine you're doing a dinner party. And for me, it's the little details. When I notice these things, it really, because it's a bit like in general with marketing or this is what I say about content. If a company puts a lot of energy into making something like content or an event great, then we use that as a proxy for the product. If they've put a lot of effort into the event, then likelihood is they put a lot of work and energy into the product. If the event is great, likely that the product is as well. And so, yeah, we always have to think about that's how people are thinking when they attend an event. And that's why when I do events, like, there's a lot of pressure that I put on myself because I'm like, yeah, like this is how people are going to perceive your brand if it's not good. So yeah, amazing. Kudos for doing great events because I think there's so much work that goes into them and it can make a huge impact when done well. So
thank you. I love what I do. I truly think I have the best job in fintech. I really do.
It's a lot of fun. No, I agree. Well, thanks so much, Rachel. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing so many incredible tips with us and our listeners. And I'm excited to see you at the next event, whichever it is, Fintech Meetup or Money 2020. And I'll check out the Tactile booth. I'm excited to see it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks for listening. You can find show notes and information about guests at www.mintcopywritingstudios.com/podcast. And finally, huge thanks to Orama.tv for producing this podcast. Thanks for listening and see you at the next episode.